Hi everybody, Paul here. I'm here with Craig and Francine and the newest member of Brookfield Zoo's Animal Ambassador Program. He's really special and I think you're going to be really excited, and let's take a look at him right now. This is Timo, and he's a Linnaeus' two-toed sloth. So he's one of two species of two-toed sloth. The other one is the Hoffman's two-toed sloth, which you can actually see over Tropic World. And as you can see, he's a little tiny baby sloth. He's about 7 months old. And he's very excited about his lettuce right now. So he's about 2 kilos, which is about 4 pounds. 4.4 pounds. So he's growing pretty quickly. When he first came to the zoo from another institution, he was about 700 grams.
Maybe a little less than that.
Yeah, maybe a little less than that. And so he's been packing on those pounds with all the veggies and some biscuits that he gets that are basically a complete diet. So all the things that are, all the nutrients that he wouldn't be getting in his veggies, he gets through those biscuits. They're a complete diet. And the diet's actually designed by our on-staff nutritionists. So we make sure that he's getting the best foods possible. He actually loves this lettuce. It's not the main part of his diet, but he's a big fan. The main thing they would eat out in the wild is actually leaves. So they eat a lot of leaves, and that's one of the reasons they move so slowly, is because leaves are very poor in nutrition and they're very low in energy. So if you move very slowly, you use less energy. And those leaves aren't really giving you a lot of energy to work with. So you can see he's pretty adorable when he chews. But I don't know if you can see inside his mouth. He actually has no teeth right in the front, but he's got some molars back there, and then he's got some really, really pointy teeth right in front of those molars that look like really big canine teeth, but they're not. They're actually modified premolars. So they're really big and really sharp, and they're actually self-sharpening. So as he grows, they'll get really big and really pointy. And they're actually a little bit scary looking, but they really don't use those for defense against predators or anything. They use those for chasing off other sloths. Because when a sloth is grown up, they're basically solitary. They don't want anything to do with each other, and if another sloth comes into a sloth's tree, they'll chase them off and they'll show those big modified premolars and try to scare them away.
Ooh, we got a good shot of his teeth there.
Oh yeah. So even as a little guy, those are big and pointy.
How come he isn't upside down right now?
So these guys don't necessarily have to be upside down. They will actually stay kind of on their mom's belly for a while, right side up for a long time, for about 6 months or so. So they can just sit however they want. And they'll be comfortable either way. They're really comfortable hanging upside down as well, though. The way their hands are designed, they can just kind of hook over a branch, and they don't use any energy to hang onto those branches. So just by default, we always tell kids, if you're hanging on monkey bars, eventually your hands are going to get tired and you're going to fall off. He can just hook over a branch and he can fall asleep, or he can just hang there all day and he'll never get tired. Like sneezing a little bit.
So his nose looks really shiny. Is it wet?
You guys want to? So it is a little bit wet. They've got a really good sense of smell. And in a lot of animals, like your dog at home or other animals with really wet noses, that actually helps in the collection of smells, scents.
Does he also eat insects?
Maybe accidentally. They're pretty much herbivores, but on occasion they'll probably wind up eating a few bugs here and there. It's not going to affect them. It's probably actually a little bit good for them to get a little extra protein in the diet.
So it seems like he really loves lettuce. So how much lettuce do you think he could eat in one sitting?
Oh, I don't know.
If we let him?
Yeah.
So we haven't tried yet. It's not part of his regular diet. We do give it to him right now as kind of like an enrichment item. But this will be something that will be part of his adult diet. And I believe the previous sloths we had probably got around 200 grams of leafies typically in a day.
When fully grown. Yeah.
When fully grown.
It's funny because, humans were like, ew, lettuce.
For him, it's
so
a special
boring.
treat.
Yeah.
What does his fur feel like?
Right now, it's pretty soft.
Yeah.
And you can see he's pretty brown now, but he's starting to get this white coloration in here, and around his neck is real white too. As he grows, he's going to get lighter in color. His fur is going to get quite a bit longer, and it's going to be kind of coarse.
And one of the really neat things about their fur, I don't know if you can see it, the direction of the fur is actually going towards the back. So when they grow and they're fully grown, and they're hanging upside down on trees, they live in rainforests, so they get wet quite often. So the direction of that fur will help channel all the water off their back. So it'll hit their belly and just channel down to their back and drip right off. And it also helps promote algae growth, because when these guys are out in the wild, their best defense is camouflage. And so if you have a bunch of algae growing on your back, you're kind of green and you blend into those trees. So helping to channel the water and kind of funnel it along your body will help, all that plant life grow on your fur.
Can you remind us what his name is?
His name is TMo, so that's T-M-O.
Now, are sloths really as slow as we think they are?
They do move pretty slowly. Like I said, one of their big defenses is camouflage out in the wild, and if you're speeding around trees, somebody's going to spot you. But if you're moving really slowly and you're kind of just drifting back and forth, you kind of look like a branch just swaying in the wind, especially if you're covered in all that moss and that lichen, and sometimes they're even covered in some bugs out in the wild. So they try to intentionally move slow to deter predators, but also to save energy. So again, leaves don't really have a lot of energy, and that's their main source of food out in the wild. So they want to move slow to conserve every ounce of energy they can.
With that being said, though, if they need to move quick, they are surprisingly fast.
If they get angry.
If they get angry. And Timo here, he's, as a youngin', he gets little bursts of energy or even what seems like play behavior, and he moves around the enclosure pretty quickly when he feels like it.
Yeah. And especially here, since he's getting lettuce and things like that, and he's got a very nutrient-rich diet. I think he's got a little bit more energy that it's supposed to play with there.
Is it true they only go to the bathroom once a week?
Yeah, sometimes less often. One of the main reasons for that is because when they go to the bathroom, they usually climb down to the bottom of the tree, and that's when they're most vulnerable. So they have to worry about things like wild cats out in the wild going after them. So they'll climb down to the ground, they'll crawl away from their tree because they don't want to clue the animals into what tree they're hanging out in. Then they go, boop, and they bury it in some leaf litter and climb back up into the tree.
At what age will he be considered an adult?
So usually when they're about 3 to 4, they're fully grown, but these guys are pretty independent pretty quickly. They can actually start climbing around on their own within, I think it's about a week or two. I don't know, they start eating solid foods at about a week, if, along with some milk too. But.
Do we still have sloths in tropic world, South America?
We do. There are 2 Hoffman's two-toed sloths over there.
Yeah, Raisin and Lawrence.
Very cool.
What country are they indigenous to?
So these guys can be found out throughout the southern part of Venezuela and Colombia and kind of the eastern part of Peru, all the way through kind of the northern part of Brazil over to Guyana and French Guiana and Suriname. They live up in what are called cloud forests, so tropical rainforests with really high humidity. They like it really kind of damp and wet where they live.
How long do they live?
So out in the wild, these guys can live around 20, maybe 30 years if they're lucky. Under professional care, he's trying to take it out. Under professional care, they can live 30 years or even 40 years. I think the longest lived sloth, or the longest lived Linnaeus two-toed sloth that I know of, lived to be about 43. And one of the reasons for that is, these guys, they get really good food. We have vets on staff here, so they have great vet care, great health care, and they get a lot of attention from people too.
How good is his eyesight?
Not very. So they have extremely poor eyesight, but they have a great sense of smell.
When will people and where will people be able to eventually see him?
So Timo is going to be part of our Animal Ambassador program, so he will generally live behind the scenes, but he will be coming out for talks and chats around the park. Unfortunately, the schedule right now is kind of up in the air with everything that's going on in the world, so we don't have anything set. But I assure you guys, as soon as we hear anything, or as soon as we know anything about when he's going to be out and about, we will definitely make sure that it's posted and all that information is available to you guys.
Timo's currently undergoing a lot of training, too, and getting used to being held and being around people. We are taking him home in the evenings to give him food and to socialize with him. And and then other than that, we do a lot of work with him. He's held a lot. We get him out on a little playpen that we have built here so he can climb around and get some exercise and just be around the keepers. And then so once we are able to start bringing him out, we'll probably start doing that in little bursts around, small groups so that he can kind of get used to all the sights and sounds and all that good stuff.
Are his nails sharp?
Francine?
They are a little sharp, and we do trim them.
So speaking of his nails, why is he called a two-toed sloth?
Well, if you can see here, all sloths have 3 toes on their back feet, but he only has 2 on his front.
So why
He's trying to tuck in.
why do sloths hang upside down?
Well, they live up in trees, and I think that position is one that uses a lot less energy than trying to constantly maintain your balance. Again, if he hooks onto a branch, he can hook on and use no energy whatsoever, and they just hang upside down. They can sleep upside down. They can eat upside down without using any energy to hang on. So you're not really fighting gravity. You're just going along with the ride. So it makes it a lot easier to stay up in the trees long term, since they basically spend their entire life up in the tree, except when they go down to either move to another tree or to use the facilities. In fact, when they climb down to the ground, they actually can't stand up on their own. They have to do like an army crawl on the ground because the way they're built is basically to hang upside down. They're not built for walking on the ground.
Yeah. So where are his ears?
They are underneath the fur.
Hiding in there. Oh, there you go.
Oh my goodness. Those are the cutest ears.
We think so too.
Oh my gosh. How much does he weigh?
So like I said, he's around 2 kilos, but his weight does fluctuate. Since these guys only defecate about once a week, when he goes, he loses about 1/3 of his body weight. So the last time he went, he was 2 kilos the day before, and then he was about 1.5 kilos right afterwards. He's grown a little bit since, but again, that's around where he's at. And again, 2 kilos is around 4.4 pounds.
So are sloths only New World animals, meaning that they're, in the Americas?
Yes, yeah, all sloths are New World animals.
Are they good swimmers?
They are good swimmers. One of their last-ditch defenses, too, is if they're in a tree that's and they're hanging over water, if they feel threatened, they'll actually drop into the water, and they can swim faster than they can crawl. So they'll swim across and try and find another tree to get up into.
So do they drink water?
They do. They don't need to drink a ton because they do get a lot of water through the things they eat, the leaves and whatnot. But yes, they will actually go down to the ground and drink some water if they need to.
Oh, he's so sleepy.
All that eating got them tired.
If a sloth is upside down in a tree, what happens to their blood? Do they get lightheaded?
They don't. One of the really cool adaptations about these guys is a lot of their internal organs are actually attached to the front of the rib cage. So the heart and a few other organs, they're just hanging from the front of the rib cage, and they're not really fighting gravity at all. So that helps maintain that blood flow without fighting gravity. They don't have to fight against just the heart being on the backside and all the pressure and everything. If that makes sense.
Yeah. So they're built to hang upside down.
They are built. Yeah, they are specially modified to be excellent at hanging upside down.
So how long does he sleep?
In theory, so we've heard a lot of different things. Sometimes people will say that these guys sleep up to, I think, 22 hours a day. But one of the newer studies I've read is that they're not quite as lazy as a lot of people say. They actually will wake up in short bursts. So they'll wake up for about 15 minutes, eat some food, and go back to sleep. So a lot of times, that study claims that they only sleep for about 8 to 10 hours. So not that much more than we do.
He is definitely awake all night long.
That was going to be my next question. What's it like having a baby sloth in your house?
He's pretty easy to care for compared to maybe some of the other animals we might have had to do, because he is very comfortable just sitting. He just likes to sit in our arms. So for us, we do have to do an evening feed with him, and we might wake up to check on him and give him some water if he needs it. But a lot of the work we're doing is just a lot of holding and socializing with him and kind of desensitizing him to us and some sounds and other things around the house.
And a lot of positive reinforcement, just kind of showing him that it's fun to hang out and and it's a positive experience every time.
It must be really hard to have to cuddle a sloth all the time. Huh? I just lost my next question.
No.
Let's see. Okay, what animal are they closely related to?
These guys are closely related to, I guess, closest would be like anteaters and armadillos. And while they're quite a bit different, they do share, their eyesight's poor, but they have a really good sense of smell. I guess sloths are a little different based on the diet, but anteaters, or not anteaters, but armadillos like to eat plant matter too, but they're kind of like in the middle. The armadillos will eat bugs and plant matter. Sloths only eat the plants, and anteaters really only eat the meat, the bugs. But they do have other features too, like the claws on the sloth. While they're primarily used for hanging and maybe swiping at something, they're very strong, hooked structures, very similar to like an anteater or tamandua or even the armadillo, which they use those strong claws kind of similar to maybe climbing and digging.
Well, right, because anteaters kind of walk on with their
Yes.
claws underneath.
Yep.
But these guys don't do that.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, again, they kind of do like an army crawl on the ground.
An army crawl, but not on their hands. Their hands. All those sloth hands.
One of the really neat things I always like to talk about when we talk about their relatives is the two-toed sloth and the three-toed sloth. They're not even really that closely related. Again, they're close. They're somewhat close because they're all what we call xenarthrans. But they're both descended from different species of ground sloth. So they evolved independently, which is kind of neat.
So how small was he when he was born?
So he's from another institution, so we don't know exactly, but in general, these guys weigh in at about 300 to 400 grams when they're first born.
So that's pretty small.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does he make any noises?
Not really.
A little bit, but not very often.
Yeah.
I feel like I need to talk more quietly because he's sleeping.
Well, he's used to this.
I know. I don't know what I'm doing. Can you remind us how many teeth he has?
I don't know the exact count, but again, he doesn't have any incisors in the front. He just has some molars, and then he has some caniniform premolars. So those are premolars that kind of look like canine teeth, but they're not really canine teeth. But they're sharp like they are.
Aside from lettuce, what's his favorite food?
Oh, he likes all sorts of veggies.
He does. He really likes carrots
He was eating
a lot.
the carrot well. He was eating the green bean, and then he decided he didn't want that anymore.
Does he like fruit?
I'm sure he will.
Yeah.
But we are trying to make sure that he's before we start introducing fruit as like maybe a reinforcer or treats, we want to make sure that he gets a nice healthy taste for the veggies, the stuff that he will be eating regularly.
Is he starting to climb on trees yet?
He is. All night long, he likes to climb on the branches in the enclosure we have at our houses. And when he is at the zoo, he likes to explore his enclosure here. And then Craig had mentioned that we made a little playground for him, so he does climb on that too. He just doesn't climb as high as an adult would.
He likes to play it safe.
Yeah.
Oh, here's a good question. What is a ground sloth?
A ground sloth is an extinct animal that's basically similar in appearance to these guys, but they were huge. And I can't remember exactly how big they were, but I want to say over 6 feet tall. They're
Yeah,
just
they were
really,
like 8 to 10 feet tall.
yeah,
I
8 to
think.
10 feet tall. They're just really giant animals. They had those really big, sharp claws in the front for digging and burrowing and tearing things up. But eventually, they made their way into the trees and kind of shrunk down a little bit, and now they're what you see before you.
You can actually see a ground sloth in the Smithsonian.
Oh,
That's cool.
Yeah.
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, you look at it and you're like, holy cow. Sorry.
That's okay.
Does he live with other sloths?
No, he does not. He's just kind of here with us. He gets a lot of attention from his keepers. We love him, and we have a lot of things that we do to take the best possible care of him. But again, these guys are solitary animals, so they really wouldn't. When they're fully grown, they really don't want other sloths around.
Okay. Why do they have 3 toes in the back and only 2 on the front? Do we know?
That's just kind of the way they evolved. They really, I don't know if there's any special adaptation to having 2 over 3 in the front. I think it's just based on, again, the species that they evolved from. Because both 2-toed and 3-toed sloths are both very successful in their ecological niche, the area they live in.
Oh my gosh. So we have, yeah, he's been asleep for a while. We might wrap this up soon. Nobody's complaining about looking at a cute little sleeping sloth, though.
I was hoping we'd get a yawn on camera.
I know.
Those are the best.
Let's see. Okay, so we talked about how you do take him home at night. So how long will that continue? Do you have any idea?
We don't have a set end date. It's always kind of open to discussion based on his development. So once we're comfortable that he's well socialized and comfortable and does not need an overnight or a late night feeding, and that's when we would kind of taper that off.
Ooh, and someone says there are ground sloths at the Field Museum as well. I did not realize that. That's cool.
We'll have to go check it out.
Yeah.
And let's do one more question.
Yeah, absolutely.
How many species of sloth are there?
So there are 2 species of 2-toed sloth, and I believe 4 species of 3-toed sloth.
All right. Actually, I lied. We're going to do one more question. This is for me.
We're not
So
complaining either.
I'm just curious, what's your favorite thing about him? I want to go down the line and start over
Oh
here.
my gosh.
with Paul.
I mean, sloths in general are just so different than so many other species that we work with. So it's just a very unique experience taking care of them. And it's also just really endearing when he falls asleep on you too, just as a personal thing.
Just kind of, him being a baby is really fun to watch him explore new things. And he is very curious, but he always wants to check in with us too, just as, a human baby would. They want to explore their environment, but always make sure that, their caretakers are around.
It's tricky. I guess for me, I've never been one of those people that's obsessed with sloths. I mean, they're a neat animal, just like pretty much any other animal. I think they're really cool, but I didn't have that obsession until I met Timo. I started taking him home. He's really fun to just work with. He's fun to watch. Watching him do this, or all of a sudden wake up and he's going crazy and playing. It's just a really fun experience. I'm glad I'm part of it.
Yeah, and getting to see him grow is just great. Well, thank you guys for visiting with us. Thank you for all your questions. And we appreciate you guys tuning in. We appreciate your support. And once again, thank you from Brookfield Zoo and all keepers, and from Timo.
Thank you.
Bye.